And we're on. Hello and welcome to podcast episode 102 of Rope Boxing, where the two Daves are joined by the host and the original OG of the SW Fight Hub podcast, the boxing Bible itself. It's Mr. Sam Walker. Sam, thanks for joining us on the show today to review the last Crescendo cards. It's good to see you, brother. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Much appreciated. Second appearance now. Great time to talk boxing with the card that happened last week. So, yeah, buzzing to get into it.
Last time I had you on, you deputised for Dave when we first got together. And
yes,
that
correct.
Fight, yeah,
correct.
So, I don't know if you can remember the fight. The main event we spoke about was David Allen Picasso on the Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah. I was owed one, wasn't I? I was owed one.
Yeah, but we've moved up. We've come a long way since then. Obviously, with Uncle Turkey and what's happening, and we will crack into it. We've got you for about an hour and a half. Just quickly, ladies and gentlemen, as you're sitting there, like, share, and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, like, share, and subscribe via YouTube, if you can see us now. And obviously on your podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, all those kind of things as well. And also on Sam's, as you can see there, if you're on YouTube, SW Fight Hub. What's the rest of your handle, brother?
Yeah, the SW Fight Hub on X and SW Fight Hub YouTube. That's it. Both the same, nice and easy. It's much appreciated, guys.
There you go. So let's crack straight into it, boys. The last Crescendo, the best card ever, it was dubbed. The matchmaking, the build-up, the dramas, the fight itself, the aftermath. Did it deliver for you two?
I'll let Dave go.
Absolutely. I loved every minute of it. It had it all. You know, it's going to have talking points, which obviously we're going to talk about. It had drama. It had excitement. It had Turkey walking around the ring, causing a scene because things weren't going well. It had absolutely everything. So yeah, it absolutely lived up for me. I loved every minute of it. I was so ingrained in watching every single fight that I as soon as one ended, what I did like as well is the fact that it went straight after. You know, I was up getting a beer, cracking a beer, and then there was another ring walk. So I thought, this is great. So no, for me, it was great, fantastic, loved it all. And I think the fighters have got to take a lot of credit as well. They brought their A game, they brought the best out of each other, and produced great fights. So yeah, for me, it lived up to all the hype, and all the drama, and all the storylines in the build up to it as well. We had pullouts and guys turning up on planes, a couple of hours before, no sleep, jet lag. It had the Rocky story with Padley. It had it all, mate. I loved it from start to finish, and I didn't want it to end. It was amazing for me, brilliant.
Yeah, just piggyback off the back of what Dave said. To be fair, Dave, I think it had absolutely everything. Myself personally, I'm a fan of all combat sports. I've seen that kind of drama many times in UFC fight weeks, but the eyes, everything that happened with, as Dave said, Bakole, Padley, the drama, that was just before the first bell went. Obviously, there was two fights before, Smith and Buatsi, but one of the fight disciples, I think, tweeted it out, Adam, tweeted out beforehand, and he said, Smith and Buatsi, it's going to dictate the pace of the night. If we get an absolute humdinger in that, which, let's be fair, not many of us were expecting Smith and Buatsi to be fighting the night on Saturday. We'll get into it in a minute, but that really did set the tone for the rest of the night. I think if that was a bit of a stalemate, then maybe the rest of the fights, they all see it in the back. They're not religiously watching, but they've all got screens in their changing rooms. They all know I know the atmosphere, a lot's made of it in Saudi and so on and so forth. But, there's definitely a buzz around after that. For me, the best fight I've watched this year so far. I know we're only in February, but I think that was a really good fight, Smith and Buatsi.
Yeah, definitely. You two have echoed everything I was going to say. If Sam, you think that was the best fight of the year so far?
The 7 weeks or whatever it is so far. I think so, yeah. It was brilliant.
As I say, we'll save that one to last. We'll start at the top and we'll work our way down. So obviously we're going to save the best till last, possibly. And we'll start, I've got there on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. Beterbiev 1, Bivol 1, trilogy next. Before we talk trilogies, let's talk about the fight itself. Best fight in boxing yet again. Part 2, elite versus elite. Close to first time round. Beterbiev getting a nod on majority decision. We asked last week, we had Mr. Liam Tully on with us, asking who needed to make the adjustments. Would there be a stoppage? Would there be a schooling? Did the right man win the fight? So I'll ask either you two guys first. Did the right man win the fight? Obviously, everyone watching, if you didn't watch, Bivol got the nod by majority decision. That's why it's 1-1. I'll start with you, Sam. Did Bivol deserve to win?
Yeah, he won the fight. I've seen so many people saying on X, I always want to call it Twitter, but it's X, isn't it now? I didn't have the best night on Saturday night for my predictions. I was taking a hell of a lot of stick, but I picked Dmitry Bivol to win on points on Saturday night, I thought. But I've seen so many people, especially stateside, that they prefer the aggression of Beterbiev. That's how they kind of tend to want to score fights. We'll get into Ortiz Madrimov later. Similar kind of thing for that for me. But anyway, on to this one. I thought it was easy enough to score. I thought Bivol started better the first couple of rounds. Beterbiev came into the fight without question, won the next 3 or 4, and then Bivol found a second wind, found the adjustments, and Beterbiev couldn't get near him for the last portion of the fight. I thought in October I picked Beterbiev to stop Bivol, but I was convinced after what I saw in October that I scored the first fight to Bivol 7-5. I scored it 8-4 to Bivol on Saturday night. I thought it was more convincing than the first fight for Bivol, and I scored the first fight for him, even though I picked Beterbiev to win the fight. It's come forward pressure and aggression doesn't always win your fights. Bivol stood and traded more. It was a better fight, by the way, on Saturday than it was in October. Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. And I didn't think that was possible because October was brilliant as well. Before I throw over to Dave, I'm even more convinced now than ever that Dmitry Bivol wins wide in a potential trilogy as well. I think Beterbiev's not going to get any more life in his legs. The guy's 40 years old or whatever. He's an amazing fighter. These two are levels of. I even think they're levels above Benavidez and Mundo put himself back in contention, didn't he? I know it's the cliche and everyone's saying it, but there's no other fights for these two apart from each other at 175 right now. The rest of them are a class below, in my opinion. Give it another couple of years, Benavidez et al. will climb up. But Bivol's 34, 35 himself. He hasn't got too much longer left in the sport. But I was pleased for Bivol. I thought he deserved it on Saturday. I thought he, was hard done to in October. I can see why the judges gave it to Beterbiev. He did finish strong. But Bivol made the correct adjustments in my mind, and he was a rightful winner on Saturday.
Yeah, I totally agree. I found this one a lot easier to score. Now, I scored the first fight to Beterbiev, 116-112. I got a lot of criticism for that, but when you look at, like you said on Twitter /X, in the first fight, for me, the outcome was a lot more split amongst the fans. There was a lot of people went for. It was very hard to score. I don't see that reaction in this one. I think a lot more people scored it for Bivol, which I found the fight a lot easier to score. And I scored it to Bivol 115-113. And you're right, he did make the adjustments. He didn't want to leave it to the judges, and all the eye-catching stuff this time was coming from Bivol. So when he did stand there, and Beterbiev was trying to push him on the back foot, he would stand in trade and he'd throw combinations of 3 and 4s, then pivot to the sides and move. And that was the difference. That was the adjustment I feel he made in this fight than he did in the first fight. And like I say, Beterbiev as well. I in the first fight I scored him his body work. I thought his body work was unnoticed by the judges and the people watching, and that was why I gave Beterbiev a lot of the rounds. He wasn't getting off on the body either. Bivol nullified that with his movement. I'm with you as well. I think he started well. Beterbiev came into it, and then he did get a second win. It was like he's changing up the game plan and going again, and he went then back straight. I felt that was where he won the fight. But for me, Bivol was the one that made the correct adjustments, and you could tell that he wanted it more. You could tell that it irked him last time. He went straight back to the gym. He did, and he was working on stuff. And I'm with you. In the trilogy, I don't see what Beterbiev can do differently to what he's done. Now, that doesn't mean we're calling him any type of one-trick pony in that, but I feel that Bivol's made the right adjustments. That if he can approach the fight again in the trilogy and win it even more comfortably this time. So yeah, for me, you said about Smith Buatsi being the fight of the night. I don't think this one was far off like a fight of the year. For me, you've had more or less 2 fight of the year contenders in the same bill, which obviously speaks volumes for the card, and rightly so. Yeah, but I love the fight. And I'm with you. They're miles ahead of everyone else.
Well, they are.
Really are. Yeah.
I think an interesting thing about it, boys, is that the narrative coming in, and it is true. Obviously, Beterbiev's knocked out every opponent that he's ever fought, not named Dmitry Bivol. But in my opinion, having shared 24 rounds together, and it's like Bivol can't knock Beterbiev out. Beterbiev can't knock Bivol out. Bivol's got too good a chin. He's too cute. He's too clever. So you can spin it two ways there. He cannot knock Dmitry, in my opinion. He landed the beautiful over-the-top right hand in the 12th round that gave him a big cut, didn't it? Give him a big chunk out of his eyebrow. And Bivol, nothing. No, it would have been interesting if there was 2 rounds left after that. Don't get me wrong. But Bivol's chin is absolutely phenomenal. And, I just don't see, if you kind of follow where I'm coming from, I just don't think Beterbiev's power is a factor in their matchup.
It's interesting you say that. It's interesting what you, sorry, Dave. It's interesting what you say that about his chin, because he's never really been chin checked, does he, Bivol? Mm-hmm. If you go back into the archives and if you be really, really honest of the people that he's fought,
Joe Smith wobbled him, didn't he, once, if you remember, years ago?
Bivol?
Yeah, Bivol, he got wobbled by Joe Smith. It was years ago, though.
Oh, was that pre-Craig Richards, was it, or post?
I couldn't even tell you, but there was one clip going around before the first fight because I dug it out and Joe Smith caught him over the top right hand and he did a little dance, but he recovered.
The chicken dance,
yeah, one of them.
But apart from that, but apart from that, he hasn't really been chin checked, and now he has been chin checked by the monster of the division. And I've used to have 24 rounds. He's took his best shots. He's ate them all up, and as you rightly say, does he just have better, does he have not so much his kryptonite because he won the first fight and Bivol's gone on to win the second fight. But sometimes you just can't knock somebody out no matter how hard you try. And he did try. He didn't give up. The tactics didn't work in the end. The middle rounds, he was sort of very, very slow. But what I noticed, boys, was compared to this one and the first fight, I said the adjustments needed to be made by Bivol. I thought he should have sat down a lot more of his shots the first fight. But his feet, no, the commentators and the pundits aren't talking a lot about his feet. They're celebrating the win and what he did right and what he did wrong the first fight. But you watch his feet. Dave mentioned it there. He would pivot to the side and then he'd take another step back. By doing that, he's creating enough space for himself to reset his feet and re-counter again. And doing exactly the same. And as he's countering, as he's pivoting, he's scoring shots and he's landing. Is he hurting Beterbiev? No, he's not. But he's landing clean and effective work. And those rounds are adding up and adding up and adding up. Every time Beterbiev come forward, he might punch onto the guard with Bivol. It would push him back. So he does carry power, but it wasn't enough to hurt him. It's very, very interesting. I just saw a lot of... I couldn't stop watching his feet, boys. His feet are absolutely amazing, Bivol. His hands were faster this time. He navigated his way around the ring. He went to the center and tried to trade at times. He needed to make the adjustments. He made the adjustments. And this time, he wasn't, he wasn't a robbery the first time. I had Beterbiev nicking it by 1 or 2 rounds, if you like. But yeah, again, fantastic fight. Adjustments made. And as another box ticked. And as the banner says there, boys, trilogy next. It's got to be next. As you said there, Sam, there's no other guys for him. Yes, the belts are tied up, and there's going to be a time where the sanctioning bodies say you have to defend or
get rid of them. Get rid of them. Doesn't need it.
Yeah, we know this. We don't need it.
They're both been undisputed now anyway, so who cares?
Yeah, correct.
Belts. It's all about who's the better man now.
And Bivol also now has the record of beating 2 undisputed fighters.
Yes, yeah. And it reminds me of Canelo Golovkin, the trilogy. This, about both amazing chins and can't be cracked. Yeah, they just wouldn't. I just don't see a knock. These guys could fight, 10 times. It'd never happen, obviously, but there would never be a knockout. It's just that they're both too good to be knocked out.
That's what I was basically saying. Yeah. They're too good. They're both given their best shots. They've both been chin checked. They're not really both been hurt. They've been knackered and tired and gassed at times.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what you get, don't you? When you put 2 50 fighters together, 2 elite fighters, they always deliver. We've had 24 rounds of world-class, world champion boxing.
Yeah.
And I want to see the third one.
100%.
It has to be. It's interesting though, boys, what Beterbiev said in his post-match interview. I didn't want to do the third one, but Turkey said so. Yeah. Interesting, isn't it?
At the end of the day, look, they're getting weighed in for it, so no one's probably thought he probably doesn't have to, but at the end of the day, if Turkey's telling you to do it, you're doing it, aren't you?
That's my point, man. Do you remember before Turkey even came onto the scene, Mr. Mauricio Suleiman wouldn't sanction this fight because he didn't agree with Dmitry Bivol or Beterbiev's views on the Ukraine-Russia war?
No, I'm pretty sure.
It's literally make up as you go along.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah.
It is, isn't it? Before we move on, boys, Dmitry Bivol now become undisputed. We're talking pound for pound top 10s. 9 times out of 10, most people have got Dmitry Bivol and Beterbiev outside of Inoue and Usyk and Crawford. Where does he fit in yours now? Off the top of your head, I know it's a hard one to do, but
he's top 3 or 4 for me. I can't decide between him and Inoue as number 3. That would be my take.
Yeah, I'd have him at 4 at a minute. I find it it's going to take a lot. Something. I mean, this is special, but it's going to take something to break the top 3 at the moment for me. It might be inactivity for certain fighters within that top 3. Well, Bud Crawford fights once a year. But yeah, at the moment, he's teetering on the edge for me. He still doesn't break the top 3.
It's because he hasn't done it in multiple divisions. That's how he stays out of my top 3. He hasn't done it. He's only done it at light heavy, where the other guys have done it in 2, 3, 4 divisions. I know Usyk's done it in 2, but to jump up kind of 4 stone.
But there is talk that he said maybe moving up, Bivol. I see something like that. I mean, the rumor mill's obviously going wild at the minute, but he's talking about moving up. I don't see it. But
I think Bivol can make 168.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think he can make 168.
By the way, just quickly before we move on to the next one, did any of you guys see the photograph of Callum Simpson and David Benavidez earlier today?
Didn't see it.
David Benavidez looks like a fucking middleweight. Callum Simpson overtowers him. Mad. Even like Callum Simpson saying, when I met him on Saturday, I didn't realise he was that small. And we're talking about the Mexican monster. Mate.
And he can't make 168 anymore, he says.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, fantastic main event, boys. This next one, even more interesting. I wrote there, Bakole, the boogeyman, buried. Yes, Big Martin sitting on the sofa in the Congo, gets the phone call, packs a bag, gets 3 planes to Saudi via Ethiopia. He's in skinny jeans. He arrives at 3 a.m. The press are all over him. He can't get to bed. He hasn't had a camp. He's overweight. He's jet lagged. He's shagged. Ends up wearing Daniel Dubois' boots. Not his boots, sorry. Ends up with Daniel Dubois' gloves. Obviously, he's a replacement for an ill Daniel Dubois. Under 6 minutes work, boys, gets knocked out in the second round, walks away with 6-figure sum of money, and he's shopping in Riyadh on the Sunday with Billy Nelson. What a story!
It was a great story, and I think me included got wrapped in the story. I thought it was written in the stars that it's going to come through this. He's just going to land. He's going to put his shorts on, glove up, and pull off a shock. And that's what
Primark shorts. They call them Primark shorts, don't they?
He had the same shorts on as the Anderson fight, for God's sake.
That's all he's got, isn't he?
That's all he packed.
Yeah.
But yeah, listen, you found out very quickly that you don't play in this sport. You know what I mean? You do need to train. You do need to have a camp. You do need to be switched on. But listen, he tried. Billy Nelson talks very, very well about him, highly about him, and says we'll take any fight, any time. And you know what? Fair play to them. They went on and proved it. They dared for greatness, which it would. Listen, it'd been a fantastic story had they pulled it off. With the whole build up of how he got there and whatnot. Wasn't to be. Joseph Parker threw a great right hand, hit him on the top of the head, discombobulated him. And I fair play to B Nelson, because it would have been quite easy to let him carry on, but he would have got absolutely banged out. His legs were completely gone. Saved him to live to fight another day. They've had a ton of money, and do you know what? The story of it ended up being better than the fight, but it made for the drama. For me, turning up out of the blue in shorts he's just packed, wearing someone else's gloves. For me, in the build-up, it was written in the stars. I thought, he's going to do this.
We got excited, didn't we? We all got excited. Let's be totally honest.
I mean, to be fair to him as well, his hands were so bloody low, especially in that first round. I know he does that in his fights anyway. Yeah, but he wasn't. I mean, there was no sort of defense there. But yeah, listen, for how long it lasted, it was pure drama, and shot on the top of the head. Joseph Parker looked well though. He looked so fit. If you're looking at
he looked massive. Parker looked massive.
He looked so fit compared to Bakole, and rightly so, because he's had a camp. But and then Joseph Parker is a likable character as well, and fair play to both men. It was fun while it lasted.
Do you get wrapped up in the story, Sam? I did see your podcast, your quick podcast with the boys. We did get wrapped up in it, let's be honest. We didn't think about the travelling. We all thought he was in camp. I think the boxing people thought he was in camp, didn't we? I didn't realise he was sitting on the sofa in Congo. Yeah,
exactly. I find it hard to talk negatively about Billy or Martin Bakole or anything like that. Billy's come and I've interviewed him 4 or 5 times for my channel. He's always given me his time. I like him a lot. And I like Martin Bakole a lot as well. I was all in on it. I was maybe biasly on that point of view. What one thing we'll be critical about, and as soon as Joe Parker hit him on the top of the head and it happened, my overriding thought was, I think it was a bad decision. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, obviously. My concern is, I had Billy on the channel 2 weeks ago and we're chatting to him, me and the boys. We actually laughed about it. We asked him, I can't remember who it was that said it, but one of Usyk's camp, I don't know whether it is Igis Kilmas or his head trainer or something like that, just said, look, Martin Bakole is one of the best heavyweights in the world, but he's lazy. And we put that to Billy. We asked Billy, and Billy laughed, and he goes, look, I'd like an extra stone off him, if I'm being completely honest with you. That's the truth of the matter. Even when he beat Anderson, he's got a bit of a, gut hanging over him, essentially. He'd like an extra stone off if possible. Martin likes to live his life as well, which is completely fine. But when you're talking about the difference between being good and great, when you look at somebody of the discipline of Alexander Usyk and his camp are saying that, they're not born yesterday. They know exactly what it takes to build a champion and an undisputed champion. If you've got somebody who maybe isn't as all in as that. Now, Martin Bakole wasn't in camp. He hadn't thrown a punch in heavyweight since August. I'm not too sure what he'd been on the bag for 10 rounds or something like that in the gym, ticking over. But not to be uber critical, but he was in terrible, terrible shape. Awful shape, to be fair. Yeah, when I saw that, and when I saw him hitting the pads in the changing room, I kind of was like, yeah, he's not winning the fight. And I picked him out of emotion to win it before I actually saw it.
Yeah,
obviously the flight and all the rest of it, yeah, that didn't help. But if he'd have got a private jet over, he wouldn't have won that fight. So look, I get it. Billy's made a hell of a lot of money. Martin Bakole's made a hell of a lot of money. They don't ever have to worry about money now. It's all about probably legacy going forward. We're trying to push towards a heavyweight championship. But as we've seen a million times before in the past, sometimes you don't recover from that one knockout. And it wasn't that destructive. Yeah, he caught him on the top of the head. It was a bad one, but Billy pulled him out, rightfully so, as Dave said, in the nick of time. So he wasn't badly hurt. He's in the Saudi shopping malls and all the rest of it. But I'll reserve my judgment on it and see what happens in May against the Jabber. And if he loses that, then all of a sudden, the risk could be that you could have made a hell of a lot more money if you didn't take the fight down the line, if you get where I'm coming from. So it remains to be seen. If he goes out and smashes a Jabber in 4 rounds in May, then he could be back and do it again. But for me, I don't think we categorically know if it was the right decision or not, probably till 18 months down the line, honestly. And I love the team. I love all of them, but I'm not sure. But look, as Billy said in an interview I watched yesterday, very easy for Eddie Hearn to say he's a multimillionaire, that he shouldn't have took the fight. Martin Bakole never seen that kind of money before in his life, and he's been on the outside looking in for God knows how many years. So in retrospect, every human being probably would say yes to that. If you're as good and skilled as Martin Bakole, and of course he had a chance, everyone has a chance. How could he say no? So look, there's that side of the coin as well. But look, I don't think we'll know really until 18 months' time. When he's had a couple more fights, we'll know whether it was a good decision or whether it wasn't. But his momentum's, ruined a little bit, hasn't it, really? Let's be fair.
The boogeyman's got kind of tags. Fell off a little bit. But the lucky thing is, though, Sam, he'll probably have a 30-day suspension. One of the because
he's lost the IBF as well. He's lost the IBF final eliminator. He's still fighting a Jagba, but Billy said in that same interview I watched, it won't be an IBF final eliminator anymore. So they rolled the dice to go for the WBO interim because that mandatory was going to be called before the IBF. That was their reasoning behind it. So if they beat Parker, they would have, like, Parker's as WBO interim is going to be called for a mandatory before the IBF. Mandatory would be called the winner of him and a Jagba. So essentially, he can beat a Jabber now, and he's still not going to get a world title fight. So look, I don't know.
Possibly another sanctioning body can put a bullshit belt on him. We know what they're like. There'll be 3% there, and he'll go up the rankings. He's not done just yet. I mean, just going back to the fight, boys. He was out of shape. You're right. He has got a gut on him. 100%. He was unfit. You could see that. And Dave, you said there that he always fights the same way. And if you notice, I think it was the back end of the first round, boys. He kind of throws out a lazy shot to Joseph Parker's body. Joseph Parker stops and then takes a step back. Now that hurt him. And even I had the zone comms on, and he said he's felt that. Parker's felt that. Now a fitter, more active, a guy that would have had a 12-week camp, in Bakole, might have jumped all over him then, but he didn't. He just stood there because he was sweating after 3 minutes.
I think you could tell.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I called it on our watch along. I said about 45 seconds before it happened. I said the difference in speed between them. I said Parker's going to land a big right hand over the top in a minute because Bakole looks so slow. And I know he's not the quickest of fighters anyway. He's very active, and he throws. What's so good about him is he throws 50-60% shots, and that's what got Anderson. You know, it's not a real pressure fighter, but like he throws those. Beterbiev's the same. He never loads up massively, but he's got effortless power. Natural. But Parker was just quicker than him, and he had a couple of rounds in him, didn't he? Let's be fair. He had 2 or 3 rounds to get Parker out of there, and if not, it was over anyway, I think.
Yeah, interesting to see what happens going forward. Dave, do you want to add anything before we move on to the real life Rocky story?
Well, no, just going to put it to you there, lads. Is that you said about the boogeyman, and it's always been difficult for Bakole to get fights. Now, obviously, he's going to fight a Jagba next. But now, do you think that heavyweights may be more inclined to take the fight? I know he was out of shape. We know the whole story, but this boogeyman tag now might fall away, and he can actually there'll be fighters to be out there that actually put their hand up to fight him. Or do you still think he's going to be that low high risk, low reward sort of situation with him?
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword. I think he's less likely to get opposition based on the fact that he's down the pecking order again now. So why would you take the Martin Bakole risk if you don't need to? It was a calculated risk by Andy Lee and Joe Parker that came off. Whereas Turkey, the only thing he's got going for him is Turkey's in favour. Apparently, Billy said that Turkey said he's forever indebted for stepping in last minute. So if you're in favour with Turkey, you're going to get fights, aren't you? It's as simple as that. So there's probably 2 sides to it. I'd probably say he's still okay for opposition if Turkey's in there with him.
So basically, Turkey will save the day, or unless he's mandated. So he's got 2
options. I think so.
Really. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah. I mentioned there the real life Rocky story. Nearly, we're talking about Josh Padley stepping in for Floyd Schofield, another guy that was poorly over the weekend over in Saudi. The real life Rocky story, 3 shot of gold for Josh. Another guy that's walked away with probably a 6-figure payday. Well, we've heard from the reports that he can now retire. He's not a part-time boxer anymore. He can take away the electrician trade, maybe hand it over to somebody else and goes full-time as a boxer. But in reality, boys, I know it was another dream, but again, I mean, we'll talk about Shakur in a minute and the criticism he gets, but it was when it comes to levels, it was chalk and cheese, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, you could see there was levels there. It was pure heart from Josh Padley, and everyone in the crowd wanted him to win. We all did. The whole story again wrapped up in the whole story. It's an amazing story. He gets a phone call. He's working in a loft. You know the story. He's doing solar panels. Gets a phone call to fight in Saudi against WBC world champion in Shakur Stevenson. It's stuff movies are made of. But it was a step too far. And yeah, Shakur Stevenson, he got to show off all the class that he's got, and he has. There's question marks of people giving him criticism. It's taken 9 rounds to take out an electrician. People are questioning his power. Is his hands healed? That's a factor. But listen, it's undoubtedly that he has got all the skills in the world. But the criticism that's put at him is he just lacks that sparkle. He was always always a lose for him in this fight for me, because everyone was wanting. Padley's come from nowhere, and and when Padley goes down, everyone's cheering him to try and get up, and it had it all for me. But even Padley's come out and said it. He was a class apart, and you could see that. But again, for me, it's a lose. Shakur Stevenson can't win no matter what he does in this fight. If he goes 9 rounds, he gets criticised, but he still gets the win. And then there's always question marks at him. But for Josh Padley, it was an amazing story. It was he tried his heart out as well. He really, really did. And
the stocks rose as well, wasn't it, with Padley? The stocks definitely rose now.
Yeah, the body shots were just too much for him, and and that was the class of Shakur Stevenson. But it's where he goes next for Shakur for me. I'm not convinced that his hands are fully up to it. I honestly think that he's struggling with them. Or it's either that or he does lack a little bit of pop. But with skills wise, I think he is world class. But he does get criticism no matter where he goes.
Yeah, look, the first thing I want to say about the fight, outside of being delighted for Josh Padley and his life and everything like that, I do think it was a bad decision putting that on at the time in the card that it ended up being. I think that could have been further down the card. I think it sucked the bit of the energy out, not of the crowd, but out of us watching. To be honest with you, it was kind of one of those. We knew how it was going to go. We all wanted Josh to get the job done. We all knew what was going to happen. It was just a case of can Shakur stop him, or when Shakur going to stop him, even though Shakur's not a big puncher. I watched his fight against Harriet Union, where the crowd left in his hometown, his last fight with Top Rank. I watched that. Look, he's a great boxer, that you can't sit there and deny that, but he's just not good to watch. And Floyd Mayweather, for me, I love watching him, and he had a defensive style at the end of his career. I just can't warm to watching Shakur Stevenson fight. And the few things I didn't agree with when he was staring out Josh Padley on 2 days' notice at the end of the round, he's trying to flex on him. And I know he was gracious-ish in victory in the end, but I can't warm to Shakur. I honestly can't. I'm convinced Tank Davis knocks him out of the fight as well. I actually thought Shakur beat him up until not up until Saturday night, but something switched to me. I think you bang on about his hands. He pulled out the Cordina fight, didn't he, again for hand surgery. I just think the only fight for Shakur Stevens, he can't fight Keyshawn. They're great friends. The only fight is Tank, isn't it? Really, Josh Padley needs to be signed by a major promoter. Hopefully, Queensbury will do that for him. Because I think they've probably got more fights for him potentially. Delighted for him, but Shakur flattered to deceive for me. I think that's being kind.
It's a weird one, isn't it, with Shakur, mate? It is a weird one because he's never been the guy to go out and start trading. He's never been the guy to go out looking for knockouts. He was when he turned from amateur to pro, he was the kind of like a bit like Buatsi. This is the next star of UK boxing or American boxing. And it has to an extent in terms of him not getting beat and perfecting the science of hit and not get hit. We've got to remember this is hit and not get hit, not hit and wait for the other guy to hit you back. If the other guy can't land on you and you're still boxing off the back foot and you're still landing, that ain't on Shakur. That's on them. You can't land on that motherfucker. So he's not doing anything wrong. But from the optic test, watching a guy that's doing that constantly for half an hour, 36 minutes, I do get why people get turned off. Because when you come to professional boxing, you are looking for that knockout. You are looking for those viral moments. You're looking for the blood and the guts. I totally get it. As boxing fans, I can sit there and watch him because as I just said there, watching Bivol's feet. I'm addicted to people's feet. So watching somebody get in and out of range, I think it's wankable. But for the casual fan trying to bring those eyes to a pay-per-view audience, American superstar, I totally get why people switch off, Sam.
You've hit the nail on the head, and I was going to actually compare him to Dmitry Bivol. Let's not forget Dmitry Bivol defended his WBA championship against Craig Richards on a matchroom card where he was on at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or something. Shakur's exactly like Bivol. He isn't going to get his shine until he's fighting at the top of the division. So Eddie and Matchroom have got a job to do here. They need to land Shakur fights. Zepeda was meant to happen, wasn't he? He's got a rematch, Tevin Farmer now. He 12-0 Williams Zepeda. Wouldn't be close. But they have to land in that Tank fight. Or if he wants to go up to 140 pounds, there's plenty of fighters there that he could fight and have that style. But he's not going to get the plaudits. He's not going to transcend over to the household casual audience until he gets the names in where he's got danger at the other side of the ring to him.
And the viral moment, Sam, the knockouts. That's what people want to see, don't they? They want to see knockouts. Tank's fighting this weekend. He's got a habit of switching off, not doing anything for X amount of rounds, and all of a sudden he'll look at his corner and say, "Is it time?" He'll set a trap. And he gets a dirty knockout.
That's why
and
he's selling millions and millions of pay-per-views.
Exactly, mate.
But also, as well, before we move on, they talk about the Floyd Mayweather narrative with him, but I think people forget about the pretty boy version of Floyd Mayweather. But he wasn't like that. He was very front-footed and spiteful. I wanted to take guys out. Shakur's never been that. Now, if you're comparing him to the Floyd Mayweather, the money Floyd Mayweather, then fair enough. But Floyd Mayweather had 2 careers. where he was a different fighter. You know, he switched it up as he got older. Shakur's, you know, and so yeah, I'm with you. It's frustrating, he is, because he does have all the skills in the world, but it's just that sparkle for me that he just lacks, and you can see why he gets quit. I mean, I do think the booing and people leaving the stadium is a bit harsh, but I can sort of see it as well, you know. But yeah, he's a hard watch at times. I'd say he's brilliant at what he does, but you know, it's just that extra sparkle. And I'm with you. I feel that I think he needs real jeopardy. You know, a real top fight. You know, where people are talking about maybe being a 50-50 to see see him shine, and he hasn't had that yet.
It is one for you boys. Just quickly before we move on to the next fight, before I start ranting about the next fight, with Shakur trying to get fights, whether it be Bob Arum and Top Rank, and now he's with Eddie. Putting this way, do you think that the opposition, the higher end of the opposition that's approached, do you think they don't want to take the fight in case they get embarrassed?
You know, it's prize fighting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyone will fight anyone if enough money's on the table. I think the Tank situation's different. Because Turkey's now got Shakur, hasn't he? He's aligned with Riyadh season. Tank's been vocal about, you got to do this for me before I fight over days with PBC. It's a different situation, but I don't know. There's a pay to fight was there or thereabouts, wasn't it? And then I wouldn't say that to be, you know, if I was a prize fighter at 135 and could bang a little bit, I'd fancy a go at Shakur.
In a sense of struggling to land, getting frustrated, you've got a reputation yourself, and he's kind of, even though he's boring at the same time to a casual, making you look silly. To me, there's an element of that there as well, you know? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. But like you said, you bang on there, Sam. It's down to Eddie now. Eddie works for Shakur Stevenson. It's down to him. This 3-fight deal, he's got 2 left. He's got to get him names. Otherwise, he's failed. He's failed as a promoter.
I don't think it's just a Shakur Stevenson problem in this division, though, because we talk about Tank's opponents as well. You know, I'm frustrated sometimes with Tank's opponents. We always do. Tank sort of talking about retirement when he, you know, but yeah, he's never fought, you know, another world wanted to go for undisputed. I don't know whether it's not, you know, it's an issue for Shakur Stevenson, but is it an issue in that division as a whole? Whereas obviously, you know, you're talking like Keyshawn Davis is now on the scene, but they're friends, so they're not going to fight. I think it's all just, you know, holding that division up for the greatness.
Yeah, one of them needs to move up.
Yeah.
Keyshawn's big. I think he's big guy to move up.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Shakur fought 126. Shakur's not a big guy. Keyshawn's big at 135.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be long before Keyshawn does anyway. Like I say, it's very hard to get your hands on these other belts, and you know, PBC have got their things keeping it in house. So there's a lot. I think there's a lot more than just it's Shakur's that can't get the fights. I think it's the division as a whole. You know, that they're not willing to fight each other, and I think that the only opportunities, especially for Keyshawn, is to go up. So yeah. I think we're miles off from Tank versus Shakur.
As long as we see the Andy Cruz fight with Keyshawn Davis, that's never going away, is it? But just before
that looks to be the only option for Keyshawn. I know we're going off tangent a little bit here, but that looks like the only sort of option at the moment.
Right. Carlos Adames robbed. Yes, robbed. I could not believe what I was watching on the weekend, boys. I've been a massive fan, and Davis on this podcast, Sam, of Hamza Sheeraz. I've got receipts on here saying I think Hamza Sheeraz is the second best fighter at 160 after Yanibek Alimhanala. I thought he would be too good for Carlos Adames. I thought he'd be too good for Erislandy Lara. Going into the prediction week, I changed my mind. I went and done a bit more homework, if you like, on Adames. Obviously, he's a PBC fighter. The dude fights once a year. He's not even co-main 9 times out of 10. So you sometimes miss him when he's in the prelims or he's mid-card. Mm-hmm. Went away, had a nosy at him. Realised that he was a stellar amateur. He has still got that amateur style. He does set traps. He picks his shots well. He finds angles. He's world champion for a reason. Yes, he was upgraded, but he's had 2 or 3 fights since he's upgraded. And he looks world class. He is a champion for a reason. I changed my prediction. My heart said Hamza, but my head went Carlos Adames. But I sat here at home, boys, with my missus watching the boxing. My missus likes Hamza Sheeraz. She thinks he's quite hot. So and there's a narrative there for that. So we were both cheering him on. And she doesn't follow boxing. She doesn't like boxing. And even she sat there with me and watching it. And she said, he needs to do more, doesn't he? I said, too fucking right he does. So the first 2 rounds, I think you could score both those four rounds, lads, 10-10. there wasn't a lot happening. But they were both downloading, both feeling out, so there wasn't a lot happening. I'd probably give it 2-2 or possibly 3-1 to Hamza. Okay, going into round 5, it's like the momentum changed. Now, since then, we've heard the stories that he's broke his hand or he's fractured his hand, whatever. It must be the quickest hand fucking X-ray in history, because after the fight ended, the next fight started. We diagnosed a broken hand and fucking when surgery's going to happen. So I'm not up to date with that. However, if he did break his hand, it would explain a lot, but that doesn't explain the result of what happened. I gave Hamza Sheeraz four rounds in that fight. Okay, I've gone back and watched it on Sunday. It's the only one I've gone back and watched for, because I saw comments on Twitter. I've seen comments from pundits, radio stations, etc., all having different views and ideas, and I've scored it exactly the same. I've scored it 8. I scored Carlos Adames winning 8 rounds. I can't make an argument for a draw. I can't make an argument for Hamza Sheeraz winning that fight. He's got his arms up constantly. When he does throw, boys, he's landed on the gloves. You've got a pro Hamza Sheeraz crowd, whether it's a Muslim thing, whether it's because he's the ambassador and he's Turkey's friend and they're cheering, it's influencing the judges, I don't know. But he's landing on the gloves. He's inactive. Carlos Adames is finding the angles. He's going to the body. He's hunting him down. You know, he's moving out of the way. He's feinting. He's got lateral movement. He threw a hook over the top, which landed on Hamza Sheeraz. You see Hamza Sheeraz's face. He went, "Cool," as that hurt. He looked very cautious, very gun-shy, very intimidated. His body language at the end suggested he knew he didn't win that fight. And when those scores were read out, I looked at my missus and said, this is one of the reasons I get so angry. And you can probably tell now, boys, why I get so angry about boxing. Yes, it was a draw. Yes, Adames does walk away with that world title belt still. But they protected Hamza Sheeraz's own. And we got to talk about Uncle Turkey, lads. What the fuck's he doing? You've got Uncle Frank running around doing his Usain Bolt impression. Tell him to do uppercuts. So he knew. He knew that
Hamza to throw an uppercut. Amazing.
Yeah, he knew he's losing. Turkey's there. I don't know if it was the scorecard. If it was the scorecard, that needs investigating.
It's an absolute.
It's a fucking farce, mate. It's hard to criticise Turkey, but if he knows that scoring, he's more or less giving Hamza Sheeraz open scoring. If you're going to do it, if it's your party, whatever, you go and do the same to Carlos Adames. You go and tell him where he is on the scorecards. Do you know what I mean? The whole thing was a fucking farce.
Look, it's Turkey's playground, and the promoters are the kids running around playing in it. Eddie's there all night giving it stacks. Frank's showing Hamza feints and uppercuts. Turkey's running around telling him he's 2 rounds down. You know, it's not boxing. It's just Turkey's playground, isn't it? Honestly, yeah. Hamza didn't. I thought he boxed well at first. Then it felt, you know, obviously we've heard about the broken hand, so on and so forth. But many of fighters broke their hand in fights as well, navigated their way through it. Yeah, it's kind of an excuse, but at the same time, you know, Carlos Adames won that fight. There's absolutely no doubt in anyone's mind about it. It's, you know, the only people who thought that, even Turkey, for God's sake, told him that he was losing the fight. And if anyone in the world wanted Turkey to Hamza to be winning the fight, it was Turkey al-Sheikh. Like you say, he's the ambassador, he's the golden boy, he's the one that they're all getting behind, and he's Frank's guy as well. Frank picked him as the captain in the 5v5. Look, for me, Hamza was, and you know, I'm the same. I picked Hamza to win on points, like in a really close one. I told anyone that would listen, Adames will run him close. Hamza's not going to go and bomb him away.
It's 2 seasons. It's 2 seasons, Sam.
Hamza's best win was Amo Williams before it, or Denny, but you know, one of the two of them, 15 in a row. But when you dissect it, and this is what I was saying last week, I'm not just saying this in a review. Look, his best wins at British/Euro level. Domestic, you know, obviously Amo's American, but you know, NABF level or whatever, they're domestic. That's his best win. He hasn't fought anybody, and Adames, like you said, I agree. He's a level below Janibek, but people were having Hamza's name on the pedestal with Janibek, and rightfully so, because he was showing that potential before the fight. But he was guilty of the matchmaking that led him there, in my opinion. He didn't have the bridge fight. He didn't have, you know, fringe world level. He fought at British/Euro level, not 15 people out in a row. Stepped up to a good, solid champion. Carlos Adames didn't do anything miraculous, did he? Let's be honest. No. He boxed a decent fight.
He didn't need to.
Exactly. I'll tell you what Carlos Adames did. Exactly what we thought he would. What didn't happen is Hamza didn't do what we thought he could. That's my assessment on it. Carlos Adames did nothing that we didn't expect him to do. It's not like he went out there and he beat Hamza and, he put on a great performance. No, but he won the fight. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Also, as well, they're talking about him breaking his hand in the 4th round, but he still threw the same amount of shots in them first 4 rounds as he did in the rounds after that.
That's
so it was
true.
not as if he was throwing loads of shots and he broke his hand in a flurry of shots. He was still throwing single shots. He still wasn't doing enough in them first 4 rounds, which carried on in the fight. But again, going back to Turkey, going around the ring, I was expecting him to pull out a steel chair and then throw it in the ring like WWE. That was all that was missing from that. But I mean, it's not a good look, because I've seen people now going, anyone that's got Riyadh season on their shorts now, it's not going to lose in a fight. It's not a good look, because like I say, that's going viral now. Yeah, it was an absolute rock. I mean, the scorecards as well have got to be spoken about, because they were all miles apart, completely different.
WBC affiliated judges as well, Dave. So you're all supposed to be looking for the same thing. That makes it worse, mate.
Exactly that. So, and Turkey jumping up and down on the ring and going around. If he didn't send Brown and Rose, it definitely would have swayed them, thinking, "Oh, they're mans, and we don't want this." But everyone knows Hamza Sheeraz didn't win that fight. Did he freeze on the night? Possibly. He just didn't do enough. It was frustrating to watch for me. And there's plenty of head movement from Adames, and he was up for it. Hamza Sheeraz didn't try and change it up. Even when he was told he was 2 down, didn't go and roll the dice.
No.
For me, he was gun shy. Single shots, just didn't do enough, and that was a sour point for the night for me. That listen, if you lose the fight, you lose the fight.
Yeah, hand broken or not,
hand broken or not, it just needs a sour taste, and it looks rigged, and it's not a good look for the whole card. Turkey shouldn't be getting up and doing that, because now out of all of that, they've got Turkey at Hamza Sheeraz telling him how far he's down. That was a stain on the night. For me, that was one of the only negatives.
They're trying to dress these Riyadh season cards up as the best thing, and they are. That they're amazing. But what incentive is it to Top Rank and PBC? Obviously, Adame's PBC fighter. What incentive is it to send their champions over if they're not going to get a fair shake? PBC are out of the Riyadh season. Luke, they're not working with Riyadh season. Why on earth would they send more fighters into? Yes, granted, Adame's probably got a career high payday, so on and so forth. That helps. But, it's like you got Frank Eddy, Turkey, and, it's like them against you. And, unless you knock somebody out, you're not going to win.
No, you're right.
That's what it says.
That's what Tank's been heavily, vocal about. He said I'm not coming over there to get screwed. And when you see things like that, you can see why.
I don't. Yeah, go on, Sam.
Go on, I was going to say, we're talking about Tank and Shakur. Shakur's Turkey's guy and he's Eddie's guy, and what they're going to do. Just Shakur stay on your feet, and you're going to get a decision. That's the precedent that they're kind of setting.
I don't even think there'd be a rematch, no, because when we saw Usyk beat Dubois, Frank was straight away, well, I'm appealing to the WBA, I'm going to the regulators, get it called off, we need that rematch. Different vibes this time, where we'll speak to Team Sheeraz and see what he wants to do.
Doesn't need to be a rematch.
No, it doesn't. But he's not ready for that. So as you said there, Sam, European, domestic, British domestic level, maybe needs the bridge fight. I've been very vocal on Twitter the last couple of days about this, because it does wind me up when it's so blatant. When you can see, the word robbery is thrown around too much in boxing, and it is. I think I can count on my hand, 3 or 4 fights that I would class as robbery. Obviously, Taylor Catchell won. Robson Conte, Sal Foster won. That was terrible last year. And Sandy Ryan against
Michaela Meyer.
Not McCaskill.
Jessica McCaskill.
Jessica McCaskill. Yeah. This is very similar to that, and it was a robbery. But you just said there, Sam, about PBC. Now Al Heyman's fucking difficult to work with as it is. Mm-hmm. So my thinking here is, boys, with Al Heyman, PBC, and Adames. Al Heyman loves keeping things in house. He's got 2 of the 160 champions. Now this is bad for Yanni Beck as well now, because Al Heyman might say, right, if there is, Turkey says, right, we'll give you a rematch, we'll give you another chance, all is forgiven. Al Heyman might say, right, you give us even more money you paid before, or you can fuck off, or he'll keep it in house and he'll do Lara versus Adames, and you've got Mr. Yanni Beck, Alan Hanna sitting there again thinking, well, I can't fight any champions. I'm fighting bums and mandatories. What the fuck? He's getting frozen out as well. Mm-hmm. So nobody wins here, really. And I do think, I don't know what you guys think about Hamza Sheeraz. I'd put him in with Denzel Bentley. Next. That is the bridge fight for me.
That fight.
I think he does. I think Denzel Bentley beats him. But who else do you give him?
I thought about it as well. If Eubank beats Ben, they might try and pay Eubank again for Hamza. Or if he loses to Ben, actually, he could do Hamza. They tried to make it for the AJ Dubois card, didn't they? But it fell through.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but there was talk of him going straight in with Yanni Beck before this fight was announced.
That'd have been a massive on Saturday night.
Forget it.
Yeah.
He's not ready.
No.
But you know, I'm going to piss on his parade.
No, he's only 25. Look, he's
exactly.
got a few adjustments to make. He'll be a world champion.
Definitely. And it's quite let's be honest, boys, it's quite a weak division. You've got Lara's he's the same age as me. I don't know how old you are, Sam. Me and Dave are 41, 42. He's the same age as us. Fucking hell. He ain't going to be around for much longer. Adames, we don't know. He's PBC. He comes out once a year. Yanni Beck and Sheeraz are two massive boys. They'll be 166. I'm guessing. Who do Lara?
Do you think they could try and get Lara for Sheeraz to get him a world title?
Possibly, but again, he's PBC, isn't he? Depends how much money he's thrown at Uncle Turkey. But you've got that Abel. Is it Abel Hernandez or Xavier Hernandez now? That's ranked probably number 3 with the IBF. Another PBC fighter. They'll just keep it in house. But what I'm saying is, it's such a weak division. I think if Hamza Sheeraz stays around for much longer, he possibly can be a world champion. But those belts staying in house all the time, sanctioning bodies accepting voluntaries from Al Heyman, they'll end up moving up. So you probably might see Hamza Sheeraz against Yanni Beck at 168 rather than 160.
Right, that's what I was going to say. How much more time have we got for Hamza Sheeraz to stay at 160? I think it's even without this fight, he's only had a couple more fights. So will he have a middleweight? Yeah, I don't know. He's massive. So I think he's only got a couple of fights at 160 left for sure.
All right. Yeah, let's move on now. Let's stop ranting. Let's give a bit of praise. I've written there Oscar 2, Eddie 0. I'm referring to Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Israel Madrimov. The 2-0 that was a win for Oscar. And obviously last week, Arnold Barboza Jr., Golden Boy versus Matchroom. It's 2-0. All this stuff that Eddie's been saying over the last year and a half. Golden Boy's got a shit stable. They can't beat my boys. It's 2-0, Eddie. You need to step it up, brother. But this was supposed to be aggression and power punching versus IQ and volume. Supposed to be fight of the night. I thoroughly enjoyed it, boys. I thought the right man did win. And I think all of us in the box, not all of us, can't speak to every one of us, but I think a lot of us thought of Virgil Ortiz Jr. as this front-footed, aggressive punching machine. I saw ring IQ and generalship from him on Saturday night, and I was very, very impressed.
Yeah, go on, Sam. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, look, to be fair, I haven't watched it back yet, but I think I was watching a wrong fight compared to everyone else because I scored it 7-5 to Madrimov, I think, at the time. But, judging by the reaction, I probably got it wrong. One thing I did see afterwards is a lot of the highlight clip down. And as you say, Virgil Ortiz is so smart. I noticed he was setting up his jab and pulling Madrimov's glove down, feinting with the right hand up top and nailing him to the body. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. Yeah, look, he's not just a brawler, is he, Virgil Ortiz? Look, I picked Madrimov to win on points beforehand. That could have maybe swayed what I watched on Saturday. But I was really impressed with Virgil Ortiz Jr. Look, he had trouble with Boachuk. That could have gone either way, that one. Boachuk's a problem, though. He is a problem for anybody. Serhii Boachuk, he's going to be in some fun fights at 154. I'd like to see him in with Bud. Honestly, I know he's going to fight Canelo, but Virgil Ortiz is ready for that now. Honestly, I think he's better at 154 than 147. I don't think he hits as hard. Obviously, he's had two decision wins since moving up to 154. I believe he had all KO wins before that in his career, which is interesting. Granted, he's fought two better. It's probably his hardest 2 fights against Boachuk and Madrimov. It has to be said. Madrimov's in a sticky situation now. I think. Not a big ticket seller, not overly popular. Eddie's backing him. What's Eddie going to do with him now? He's lost to Crawford, put up a good performance as well on Saturday night. But I think his future with Matchroom potentially is going to be in doubt. He's going to find it hard to get fights. I think he's world champion. He lost his belt to Crawford. And I think he's going to be an interesting one going forward. But Virgil Ortiz Jr., got to give him credit. Give Oscar props as well, sent him over and he's not putting him in easy fights. He's facing real fighters since moving up to 154. So, get that Fundora fight out the way in a couple of weeks, and then Virgil Ortiz got to be going for that WBC.
Yeah, I found Madrimov's tactics to be strange. The first 6 rounds I was looking at it. I wasn't sure what he was. I could see what he was trying to do. He was trying to frustrate. Plenty of movement, but with that, I didn't see a lot of output. I didn't like that start for the fight for Madrimov. I thought, I could sort of see what he was trying to do, but it wasn't for me. I did see a massive improvement in Virgil Ortiz boxing, though. Like I say, everyone's talking about he's a power puncher and whatnot. And I was going to say what Sam said there. Pulling the guard down and then nail into the body. That was great because Madrimov was bringing his hands up, thinking that he was going for the headshot, and it just left his body wide open. It was a great tactic. So I think that Virgil Ortiz has come out with a lot of credit due to this fight now. For me, cement his place as maybe an all-round fighter now, not just he's a banger, but he's got the added arsenal now of being a boxer puncher. And so I think it was a great win. I'm with Sam. I had Madrimov to win on points, but for me, he didn't do enough. Like I say, there was plenty of movement to try and frustrate. Almost looking like he was on his bike at times, but he wasn't. It was calculated, but with that, didn't do enough and didn't want to trade. I felt that he obviously everyone knows that Ortiz is a puncher, but didn't really want to get in the pocket and trade. So it was for me, it was too much movement, and in that, he sort of slowed down in the second half of the fight, and that's when I felt Ortiz, got his work off and looked good.
He came on strong, didn't he, Ortiz, at the end? Round 9, I think it was. He was all over him in round 9.
I think a lot to do with that was with, what I found with Madrimov's first half of the fight, I felt a lot of the movement was unnecessary. I think he was doing too much moving, and in that slowed down in the second half of the fight.
He tired himself out doing that. I think the game plan was to tire out fucking Virgil Ortiz, wasn't it? That was what he was trying to do.
For me, it was a little bit unnecessary. I could see what he was trying to do, but in the end, he sort of worn himself out. I thought that the movement was almost over the top, if you know what I mean. So I feel like that played into Ortiz's hands down the stretch.
Can you imagine Shakur doing that? It'd be classed as running, wouldn't it?
Oh, he would get absolutely hammered for that. He would get absolutely hammered for that. And I'm with Sam now. Madrimov's in a sticky situation here as to where he goes next because you could be in a club where you talk about Bud, where he done very well against Bud. And don't get me wrong, he wasn't completely outclassed by Virgil Ortiz. But where did you put him now? Where does he go next? That's a hard one for him.
I had it 7-5. It was a close fight, but I think we've got to give Virgil Ortiz his props because if you watch it, you're on about his movement there, Dave, and you're spot on. The Bud fight, he was doing something very similar, but he was doing it in front of him. It's like he wasn't scared to be caught on the way in. He knows Virgil Ortiz carries power. So rather than going like that praying mantis style, going backwards and forwards, he was going side to side. It's like he's trying, I'm going to make you follow me around the ring. I've got the stamina. You haven't. You're not used to this pace at all. But it didn't work. Virgil Ortiz was slowly coming forward, the output was not there from Virgil Ortiz. They're the early rounds that he lost because he wasn't throwing. You still got to score the fight. Virgil Madrimov was on the back foot, but he was pot shotting at times, but he's still landing, he's scoring shots. So he does rack up rounds. Into round 5 and 6, I think, he looked knackered. Then he started trading a bit of Virgil Ortiz. And I said last week, you don't hook with a hooker. That's a massive, massive gamble. And some of those shots, fair play to Madrimov, boys, he took some of those shots off Virgil Ortiz when he looked hurt, he looked wobbled, and he was definitely susceptible to the body, and he was backed into the corner. Virgil Ortiz was walking him, trying to cut the ring off, landing shots. He's got a great chin. But I just thought it's a little bit of a coming out party for Virgil Ortiz Jr. It really was, because we've seen him in the past. We know exactly what he does. But I didn't think that the IQ and the generalship and dictating, making the fight his rather than Madrimov, doing it at his pace. I didn't think he had that in him, and he proved that he has got that. And I was that's what impressed me more, rather than him getting the win and throwing the combination shots and the power. His IQ was amazing. And you are right, Sam. If you got into the ring with Bud now, it's still back Bud all the time, but it's a bit more competitive than what it would have been pre-Madrimov.
I agreed.
I think it was a mature performance as well, though, because I say that for me, Madrimov set up to frustrate. And and you could easily done that in the first 6 rounds. I know, and then Ortiz loses his head and does something silly. But I feel like it was a mature performance, like you said, ring IQ. I think the overall performance was a really good one.
Definitely. Well, I think we've only got sound for half an hour now, so you have to get through these. Kurdish power beats Chinese power. Probably one of the best. This is the best performance of the night for me. Ajit Kabayel, who wants to start, boys? This guy never fails to deceive.
He's
go on, Sam. Go
brilliant.
On.
He's brilliant, Ajit Kabayel. I picked Zhang to win. Of course I did. I wasn't convinced on Kabayel's chin, because I've seen Kevin Johnson hurt him not so long
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
I saw. Can't even remember the other guy's name. He went life and death with a few people.
Was it Smakiki, wasn't it?
Yes. His improvement over the last 2 or 3 years, and no, we've heard of him since the famous Monaco night with Chisora and so on and so forth. But his improvement, and he's one of the few heavyweights that works the body incredibly well. He just folded Zhang on pressure. Zhang dropped him about 3 or 4 minutes before that. Yeah. And he just sagged, and he was absolutely done. It is relentless pressure. Now you're talking about Ajit Kabayel could be what people have said Martin Bakole is for all this time.
The new boogeyman, yeah.
It could be. Like, for me, you've got a situation now where I don't agree with it, but we're going to get Usyk Dubois 2 for Undisputed. That's going to happen soon in the summer. And both Joe Parker and Kabayel deserve a shot at the heavyweight championship of the world. But I don't really agree with it, but I want to see them fight each other because I think they're 3 and 4 right now. I don't know who's 3 and I don't know who's 4. I want to see that fight. You know, Zhang was what he was, wasn't he? You know, he had the great wins over Joyce, exposed Joyce a little bit. Had the wobbly one against Parker. It was a close fight still, you know, knocked out the corpse of Deontay Wilder. Zhang was what he was. You know,
the corpse of that.
Yeah, you know, Wilder was what Wilder was then. But, you know, at the end of the day, he's, you know, Zhang's at the tail end of his career, but he's such a big puncher and he's fast. You know, Kabayel stood on his chest and bullied him and beat him, a man who weighs 40, 50 pounds heavier than him. You know, he did it to Makhmudov, did it to Sanchez, but Zhang's a better fighter than both of them, in my opinion. Yeah. He's doing it on the biggest stage in Riyadh season. As we know, it's winner stays on. I think Ajit Kabayel can be heavyweight champion of the world. I honestly do. I think he's brilliant.
Yeah, I said when we had Liam on last week, I said you don't see many heavyweights going to the body, and Kabayel does it very well. So what do you do against someone who's everyone talks about every time we talk about his fights? It can only last 4 rounds. You chop down that tree to the body. Now, I think in the first couple of rounds he was on the outside, and that's when he got caught with a lovely shot. Zhang again putting down every opponent he's been in with. So what you would have thought to do is, well, obviously he's changed his tactics. So what do you do? Sit on his chest and work the body. And you could see every time he hit him to the body, Zhang sort of standing up straight and taking massive gulps of air. And
it was done.
It was done.
5-round fight, wasn't it?
Just chop the tree down. That's exactly it, Dave. We speak about it all the time. Zhang's good for 4 or 5 rounds, and then he gashes. But you know, what do you do for a fighter like that? You go to the body, and the tactics were perfect. And like I say, he throws a lovely body shot. It's a lovely big target on Zhang because Zhang's a big guy, and chopped him down and stopped him, and he just had absolutely nothing left. He couldn't breathe, and it was a great performance. And but again, that had the drama as well because Big Bang, you know, he can half whack, and he caught Kabayel.
He caught him straight away, didn't he? Yeah. Since the first bell went, he went straight over to him. He knocked him flying. I thought, oh, here we go.
Yeah, he did.
Well, he's good for that, though, isn't he, Zhang? Zhang's good for that first couple of rounds, and but yeah, the tactics were spot on to get on his chest. You stand at range and let him throw his straight right, straight lefts. You know, you're going to get caught with something. But you know, if you're on his chest, he doesn't have that momentum to throw them shots, and at the same time, you're tagging him to the body, and it was great. And I'm with you. Kabayel is, for me, Kabayel's the one to, you know, the boogeyman in the division. He definitely is, because again, heavyweights don't take a lot of body shots, and 2 don't throw them, and Kabayel does both. Look, and that's the big thing for me. The body shots.
You have to compare Parker and Kabayel because they're the 2 now that are on the best run, really, outside of Dubois and Usyk, but they're champions. You know, look what Kabayel did to Zhang compared to what Parker did to Zhang. You know, and I know they're different fighters and different styles, but, you know, you can't ignore that either. Parker got dropped twice and won a close decision. He won the fight, but it was close. You know, it was close enough.
Yeah.
Kabayel's just gone and one-upped him, hasn't he, really?
Yeah.
Did you notice the redness around Zhang's belly? Did you see how red it was?
Yeah.
The bout of punch. To be honest, watching it, he mixed it up. Then he went to body to head, uppercuts, but Zhang to me didn't look like he was in trouble to the body when he kept getting hit with the uppercut and getting hit with the with the overhand right and the hooks and whatnot. He looked a bit wobbled and thing, and all of a sudden he just took its toll. He took a lot of body shots. To be fair to him, he took a lot of punishment to the body. I think a lot of other heavyweights might have took the knee a lot earlier. So he is tough, Zhang, you know, but he does gas, and he is a 5-round fighter. Literally, what's Ajit Kabayel's doing now, he's finding blueprints. So Madrimov was this big Russian monster. Nobody wanted to touch him. Does the old neck movement, scary as fuck. All of his opponents that he's had previous, somehow or some way, never attack the body. Kabayel goes in there, attacks the body, stops him, chops him down. Frankie Sanchez, the next boogeyman after Luis Ortiz. No one can work him out. Undefeated, very skillful Cuban. You know, works you out, breaks you down, and stops you. Very, very good fighter. What does Kabayel do? Goes to the body, chops him down, stops him. And Zhang, no one's really attacked Zhang's body. If you're perfectly honest, they've all gone for that big slab of a head, which they can't get rid of him. Do you know what I mean? Or outbox him after 5 rounds. What does Ajit Kabayel do? Goes to the body, stops him. He's setting blueprints here, boys. So it'd be interesting. You've made a great point there about Parker versus Ajit Kabayel next. And I get why Alexander Usyk wants Dubois, because by the sound of him, what he's saying, lads, he wants 2 more fights, undisputed at heavyweight twice. And then a couple of times now I've heard him talking about this UFC star to cash out at the end, Pereira, where he does that, or the Jabataev fight. I'm not too sure. It's up to him what he does. He's the best. He's clock boxing. Do what you got to do, son. He doesn't want to hang around now for Dubois to fight Parker. But Parker versus Kabayel, Sam, as you say, that's a very good fight, and it's also a fight that could break Joseph Parker's heart, because I can see Ajit Kabayel on this run. It's something about him, isn't there? Where has it come from? You said it earlier. Where's the stink of him, Derek Chisora, getting hurt by Kevin Johnson and Smakiki? He nearly lost that. He was kept up by the ropes.
He was gone.
Where we've always spoke about Kabayel, the boxing community, about him being a good European level fighter, fringe world level, if you like, no more, no better. Well, it's absolutely amazing. It's another great story, isn't it, really? Because no one was talking about him. Now we're talking about him on this podcast, other podcasts, your podcast as well, about him being the next heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah, he's arguably the biggest beneficiary of Riyadh season, I think, Kabayel. Yeah. You'd find it hard to find anyone who's 3-0 on these Riyadh season cards.
Yeah, he's a veteran now.
He's a Riyadh veteran. Yeah, you know what? I'd find it hard to pick Joe Parker to beat him the way Kabayel's fighting. It'd be a great fight. Great fight that would be.
Yeah,
I agree. Okay, fair play to him. And lastly, on the Riyadh card, Sam said it right at the beginning. Callum Smith versus Joshua Buatsi, the fight of the night. Callum isn't done just yet. Sam, take it away. Why was this the best fight in the night, brother?
Oh, brilliant. You know, as Dave said earlier, Beterbiev Bivol, that was great too. Jay and Liam would be more on the Beterbiev Bivol side of the fence than I am. I just enjoy violence. So the basketball fights where you have a go, I have a go, that's right up my alley. That round 6 in Callum Smith and Buatsi. Yeah. If you want a round of boxing to show to somebody that you want to get into the sport and hooked on it, show them that 6th round. Buatsi looked like he was out on his feet, landed that left hook, then Smith pinned on the ropes. Oh, it was absolutely brilliant. Look, I think it was Steve Graves scored it 11-1 to Callum Smith. That was a bit dubious in my opinion. Smith did win the fight. It's a disgrace. But that was a bad score. Even the Smith brothers were saying that was a bad scorecard.
One round to Buatsi.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Look, I'll start with Buatsi because I was really impressed with Buatsi. I picked him to win the fight based on his activity and Smith's headspace, if that makes sense. I wasn't too sure if he was in it after the Beterbiev fight, where he said, "If I can't be the best in the world," and then he had the knockover in Birmingham on the Sonny Edwards Yafai card. Anyway, so Buatsi, we knew he's a good boxer and he still boxed well, but his toughness and his grit and his determination to want to come back. Callum Smith hits like a train. He's got some of the scariest knockouts. Outside of Beterbiev, he's the biggest puncher for me at 175, Callum Smith. And Buatsi just ate his shots all night to the head, but the body shot Smith was nailing him with. Callum Smith, beautiful on the inside. He's such a good inside fighter. I wrote him off way too soon, as did many other people. Yeah. It was vintage Callum Smith, arguably, one of the best performances of his career. A really, really good fight. Buatsi will be back. He showed the heart of a lion, stones. No harm in that defeat at all for Buatsi. For me, I actually think his stock rises. It's actually good to see him in a really good close competitive fight because the Aziz fight other fights he's been, even the Hutchinson fight, he didn't get him out of there when he had a good chance to. We've been critical of him. I loved everything about it. Just started the fight card on the front foot. I wouldn't mind seeing it again. I'm not saying it's not worthy of an immediate rematch, but Buatsi gets himself back in a position, and Mundo goes for a world title. Just for the fact it was such a good fight, it doesn't make sense to. I'm not saying do an immediate rematch because it wasn't close enough. Smith won decisively, but just for the fact of it was an absolute barn burner. Go do that again in another couple of years for a retirement fight for both of them. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was with you. I said I had Buatsi to win, and I was questioning what Callum Smith had left. I was saying to Liam when he was on, I said, like, he was a monster at super middleweight, and he really was. I just didn't feel like he's carried that to light heavy just yet, and I was unsure that what he had left going into this fight. But for me, it's like a breakout night at light heavy in the way that this fight was. It was an amazing fight. The shot selection from both men was unbelievable. And you talk about dance partners. You've had everyone's got their dance partner. These two their styles seem to gel perfectly. Like if they had two or three fights, a trilogy fight, everyone would be so into it because of how that was. And I think you'd get the same performance from both men. I just feel that the way that they approach fights and the way the fighters that they are, I think that the styles gelled amazingly, and I think it creates. They could be the dance partner that each other needed. Going on to the fight, well, Buatsi, he's shown something that we didn't know. He's never been in a fight like that where he's come under that amount of fire, and he's a tough man. And again, he comes out with a lot of credit. And I'm with you. I feel like his stock rises. Anyone in that division watching that now, that I think he's shown that he's world class. I think he has. And Callum Smith, again, I just said there, I thought this is breakout night, and that was an amazing performance. That's the best I've seen him in a very, very long time. And I know I'll be the first to admit I didn't think that he had it in him. But the fight, let's say round 6, fight round of the year so far for sure. Two in the centre of the ring, just bang into the body, bang into the head. It was great. And now you said, I want to put this to you, boys. Obviously, I said now there's to put Callum Smith next, and they put Anthony Yard as his next opponent. Do you feel that's a backward step?
Yeah, I do.
I was thinking that. I don't see that off a performance like that. Why has Anthony Yard's name being thrown into that?
Yard looked lackluster on that fight. He took it on the boxer card.
The Latvian bin man.
Yeah, exactly. When he had the fallout with Frank, he looked terrible. But Yard's one of them. He fights to the level of his opposition. He fought well against Beterbiev, obviously. But no, that's a bad. Buatsi should be fighting. If Yard beats Arthur, he should be fighting Buatsi. That's the fight, really. Yeah. Callum Smith is WBO interim champion now. He deserves a crack at, do Benavidez if you're going to do Bivol Beterbiev. But I'm not against the belts fragmenting, to be fair. 3 undisputed fights without, interim champions getting a crack is, they could probably feel hard done to. I'd rather it be for undisputed because it deserves
Go on in.
Can't fight forever and not let other guys get a shot at the belt.
Go on in, Sam. Matchmake. So you've got, without Bivol and Beterbiev, forget them. Just say they're doing the trilogy. So you've got Callum Smith, you've got Buatsi, Yard, and you've got Morel and David Benavidez. Do a bit of matchmaking. Yeah, they're the guys in and around the division, aren't they?
Yeah, Benavidez, Smith, Yard, Buatsi, or Arthur if you beat Yard, but Yard will beat him, I think. On the UBAC Ben card, David Morel. Who could you stick David Morel in with? He's an interesting one because he's probably
he had a great night against Benavidez. Yes, he lost.
Yeah, he fought well. Yeah, he just wasn't seasoned enough. Benavidez' seasoning got him through that fight in the end. He fought really well in glimpses. He hurt Benavidez a few times as well. It was a great fight. Really was a good fight. Trying to think who else there is or thereabouts at 175 for Morel. Can't think of any.
Do we drag out a Dan Aziz or is Danny? Is he done now?
Sure he's at that level.
No, he's not. I'm being silly.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone.
I know, but he's definitely in the mix. That's my point, isn't he?
He has to be. Yeah, he fought well. He fought the Kladzic is a tough out as well. He beat
Hot Rods, yeah.
Hot
Rods, yeah. He's out in a couple of weeks' time as well on one of those pro box cards, I think. But just before we wrap up, guys, you did mention there about Callum Smith. Not sure where he wanted to go after the Beterbiev beat down, what was left. He didn't want to fight anymore, Sam. Turkey made him do it. Turkey made him do it.
Love it.
But yeah. Performance of the weekend, lads. Where you going?
Has to be Kabayel for me. It has to be. Bivol is definitely. It's Bivol or Kabayel. It depends what you like, but technically Kabayel was a favourite and Bivol was the underdog. So on the back of that, I should probably be giving it to Bivol. But I just love what Kabayel did. But yeah, no, I should be saying Bivol. Bivol with an honourable mention to Kabayel.
Yeah.
Shakur Stevenson for me. No, I'm going to go for the sake of being different. I'm going to go for Callum Smith. I thought that was a great performance from him.
Yeah, it was.
So I'll go for Callum Smith.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Carlos Adames, boys, because you heard my rant earlier, and he didn't get a lot out of the fight apart from his belt. Well, he got 6-figure payday, but I'm going to give him a little bit more kudos and flowers. I thought he'd done all right, lads. So just lastly, we're going to talk about Nakatani. I've got on their screen, but on Saturday night, did any of you guys see Luis Nery's performance over in Tijuana against Kameda? If you did, what did you make of it?
I saw bits of it. I actually picked him on my prediction video to win via a 7th round knockout. To be fair, it's one of the few victories I got in the weekend. Look, Kameda had never left Japan before. He'd been fighting in 8 rounders. I know they had the little hostile presser, didn't they, to sell it a little bit beforehand or whatever.
Sam, he's a bit of a Japanese bad boy, isn't he, Kameda? He's not the first time he's kicked off in press conferences and in the ring. You know what I mean? So,
well, look, Luis Nery's not the most popular fella in Japan, is he? To be fair, so
no.
There's that to it as well. But yeah, it was actually a good fight, to be fair, from what I saw of it. But yeah, look, I do rate, for all the controversy around him, I do rate Luis Nery, to be fair.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. So
he's a good fight. Just the Figueroa and anyway, yeah, Figueroa looked terrible against Fulton. The Fulton boxed well last time out. He's a good fighter, Luis Nery is. But
that's exactly it. So obviously Figueroa's moved up now. Inoue will not be stopping. Well, according to Uncle Turks, he's looking at him doing the Nick Ball fight. So there's only be a certain amount of time before Inoue does stay there or moves away from Super Bantam. So the fighters you've got left there, Luis Nery still looks a very good fighter. Obviously, he's lost to Inoue, but that's no shame there. Marlon Tapales still looks a very good fighter who's lost to Inoue. You've got, I'm not too sold yet on Sam Goodman. And obviously, MJ and Casemiro still a threat, whether you like him or not. The next question, can Luis Nery clock up some of those belts if he stays in and around the super bantamweight weight class, Sam?
Yeah, he can. He's good enough and he hits hard enough. Definitely can. He's only 30. He's got plenty of time left. In my opinion.
Yeah, I tend to agree. He's got enough there to mix it with him. It's just that he's in a division where Inoue's elite. But if Inoue does decide to move up and the belts fragment, there's definitely there for a title for him. With your Sam Goodman's kicking around and these type of guys, I think he could definitely win a world title.
Right, let's crack on with the last bit of the show then. Monday was today. So Saturday we had the session. Sunday we had the hangover, and today we had the hair of the dog. We had the cure. Junto Nakatani, ladies and gentlemen, taking his record to 30-0 with 23 knockouts now, defending his WBC bantamweight belt against Mexican opponent David Cuellar. How do we sum this one up, guys? I've said it on the podcast before, Dave has as well. Down at these lower weights, you've got Inoue, you've got Nakatani, and you've got Bam. You've got names in and around those guys. But unless they kind of fight each other, we're just getting hard over them, knocking dudes out. They're just so good to watch. Nakatani today, that was a nice present, wasn't it? To end the weekend, to end the boxing weekend, an extended weekend, to watch Nakatani take care of this Mexican dude that had never been dropped in his career and obviously never stopped. He smashed him up in 3 rounds. And the talk is Inoue versus Nakatani. When are we going to get it? But going on to the fight, boys, what did you make of Nakatani today?
Yeah, look, Junto's brilliant. He really is. He broke down, stopped the guy. He had a Jaime Munguia style Mexican record, I think, to be fair. 23 years old, sort of 28-0 or whatever it was. I don't really think he had a right to be in there with Junto today, to be fair. But Nakatani's brilliant. He's such a good finisher. I love watching him fight. It'd be an absolute disgrace if we don't see him and Inoue fight. I don't know what Top Rank and, as you put, Mr. Honda are waiting for. That's an open goal. It's literally the biggest fight in the history of Japanese boxing. It's there on a plate for you.
Get it sell out a Tokyo Dome, isn't it? That
twice over probably.
Yeah.
it's huge. Get it done.
That's the fight I want to see over every fight.
I'd agree. Actually, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I totally want to see that fight. I mean, they're both great finishers. They both can punch. They both got boxing skills in abundance. It just makes for a great fight. And I'm with you. I don't know why we're holding on. Let's get it done. And that's the fight I want to see over everything. And going into the fight today, it was a seek and destroy. I mean, the finish was unbelievable. It was going to the head, and it was the body shot that folded him on the ropes for the first knockdown. And then, you've seen it so many times before. And Liam actually mentioned this because we had a little back and forth on Twitter today about it was, and he was right. I mean, fighters going in for smelling blood and going in for the kill. 10 seconds ago, you could quite easily that goes to the next round, but not with Junto Nakatani. He went straight in for the kill and finished the fight. And he's just so spiteful. He's so good. He's so skillful, and
he doesn't do anything wrong, does he? I'm trying to think. Unbiasedly, what does he do wrong? It's very hard to find any fault in his work. And this is why these three guys I mentioned there are just too good in these divisions. They can only move up so much. But like you said, Sam, how long are we going to have to wait now for Inoue and Nakatani? Inoue's the older guy, it's just a matter of waiting now, isn't it?
But like I say, Japanese boxing as a whole is just exciting as well.
Oh, yeah, I love the fact it's on in the middle of the day here. It's great.
Yeah.
And the Aussie stuff as well. Love it. Watch it with a coffee in the morning.
Definitely.
Brilliant.
Just to end on the same card, boys, Tenshin Nasukawa. We said about it last week. Us in the West, boxing community would know about him. He was the guy that went in with Floyd Mayweather back in 2018 in an exhibition, got floored 3 times and started crying. Didn't think we'd ever see him again. Just thought it was a kind of a gimmick fight, one of Floyd's early ones. He's transitioned as a pro boxer now. We spoke about this last week, Sam, and I put it onto the Jay's Fight Talk as well. I couldn't understand why a professional kickboxer that has transitioned over into the boxing world has got 5 wins against mediocre opponents, 2 stoppages, and has been ranked at number 3 with 2 of the sanctioning bodies, going in against a former world champion, a seasoned former world champion, Jason Maloney, and starts as a heavy favourite. Now, I couldn't understand that, and we was intrigued to watch that fight today, me and Dave, to see what it was all about. Didn't realise he was a Japanese legend, as in a kickboxing legend.
He's massive over there.
Yeah, so I kind of get it, but he's going in with a good operator in Jason Maloney. I watched that today. He looks the part, dressed in silver hair. He doesn't fight like a Jap. He reminds me of a bit of Ben Whittaker and a bit of Willie Hutchinson blended in together. Very slick, pot shotting, lateral movement, walking with his back. He's caught my eye.
He's all talent. Yeah,
I thought he was fantastic today. I've got to admit, boys, he was brilliant. Very impressed with him over 10 rounds. He won the fight. I wouldn't say hands down. Maloney did probably win about 4 to 5 rounds, whatever you were looking for. But there's a star there, and there's a narrative there as well, I think, because I think, off the top of my head, knowing that the sanctioning bodies, how greedy they are, and they love a bit of a 3%, you've got one Estrada that I think's ranked number 1. So you've got a narrative there for the WBC to smell 3% of a kickboxing legend against a Mexican boxing living legend in Estrada. That's a nice little payday in Tokyo, or on Uncle Turkey card there. And obviously Nakatani, same division. If he keeps winning these fights, you've got the superstar of Japanese boxing, or one of them, in Junto Nakatani, against the kickboxing superstar, who's even bigger by the sounds of it than Nakatani. I can see the business side, but before you two guys come in, I've got to say I didn't understand what was going on, but this guy, he's good. He is good, and I enjoyed every minute of watching him today. I've got to be honest, boys.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen him a few times, and obviously being a fan of all the other combat sports, I've heard his name, attached to many. I can't remember the name of the promotion now.
Ryzen, is it?
Ryzen, yeah, it's Ryzen. That's he's fought on all them, and obviously he fought Floyd on one of them exhibitions on Ryzen's. But yeah, he's all talent. Unfortunately, some boxers aren't blessed with the reflexes and the sharpness that he is. He probably hasn't had to train and put in as much graft as fundamentally as a lot of fighters have throughout their career. So he's very lucky and blessed in that way. But he looks like he could be a problem. He honestly does. Before for it today, I just want to add Seiya Satsumi against Daigo Higa was an absolute war as well on the card. He just beat Inoue's brother, I think, Satsumi.
Yeah.
Watching that. These Japanese cards are thriving at the moment. They're brilliant.
Anything to add, Dave?
No, I totally agree about the Japanese cars. They're great. And yeah, with the kickboxer there, like I say, he does have a lot of talent there. He really, really does. And they obviously manoeuvred him in a good position, and rightly so. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's the most exciting sort of country at the moment when it comes to boxing overall. I think you very rarely get a poor fight over there, and it's you get a lot of blood and guts, but you also get a lot of skill as well. I think the skills of them are very underrated in Japanese boxing. But yeah, they're absolutely thriving, and yeah, and rightly so. And like I say, the number one fight we want to see is the Nakatani and Louis.
I think it's just a shame that we're getting these cards on a Monday lunchtime, not on a prime time on a Saturday.
I couldn't watch it today. I couldn't. I was gutted.
So you just caught up with it. That's what I'm saying. It's a shame because the casual fan, not you two are boxing hardcore, and you two couldn't watch it. So the casual are not going to go out the way to watch this, and because they don't know any names, it's automatically, well, I don't know him, so he must be shit. So it's a kind of it's a hard one to sell, but as a boxing fan, I don't really care about that side. I know what these guys are all about, and I love watching them. And like you said there, Dave, they're quite sort of underrated in the skill set. What they do in the ring. They're the lower weights boys, aren't they? So they're for 36 minutes. They'll rock 'em, sock 'em. They're fast. They're fleety. They're throwing. It's absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And again, just quickly, I've got for a couple more minutes. Weekend fights coming up, brother. Just a quick opinion on the hand-picked ones here. So obviously Tank versus Lamont Roach for the WBA lightweight title. How do you see that one playing out on Saturday, mate?
Yeah, I think it'll be a classic Tank kind of level enough fight through 5 or 6 rounds. Roach is decent, actually. He's a decent slick operator, but Tank will stop him late in the fight, I think.
Yeah.
Albert Puello versus Sander Martin.
Yeah, Puello Martin's decent. The Dalton Smith sweepstakes, isn't it? Yeah, that's going to be a Riyadh season card. I think Alberto Puello might sneak it through on points. It's not going to be an amazing fight, that one, I don't think, Puello and Martin.
It's quite skillful from what I've seen Puello.
Yeah, I think it'll be a 12-round kind of, someone's going to nick it kind of thing, I think, for that one.
Jose Valenzuela, mate, he's WBA super lightweight title, who he won off Isaac Cruz. They fell in love with him after that fight. He's fighting one of the 148 Gary Russell Jr. brothers. How'd you see that one going?
Gary Antoine Russell,
He's the one.
He's won 17 fights and 17 knockouts, and so he can certainly bang. His only defeat was to Puello, I think, wasn't it, last time out?
He's
like Dave, I love the Valenzuela win over Pitbull. I thought he was brilliant.
That was great.
He absolutely schooled him. I hope Rayo Valenzuela can win a points decision. I'll stick with Rayo on points, but be careful of that power.
Yeah, and last but not least, mate, the Irish Derby, North versus South, Lewis Crocker versus Paddy Donovan in Belfast. How do you see that one going? Again,
probably with my Billy bias, I was always leaning towards Crocker. But as it's got closer, there's something like Jay's convinced Paddy Donovan wins. I think it's such a good fight. Honestly, do. Paddy's got more knockouts or high knockout percentage on his record, but the perception is Lewis Crocker's a bigger puncher. I think something straight. I think it's going to be a real something weird's going to happen in that fight. I'm telling you, Crocker's got the home advantage, but Paddy's going to bring plenty up from Limerick. It's going to be, to be honest with you, outside of Tank Roach. That's the fight I'm really only looking forward to this weekend, to be fair. Crocker Donovan. McCrory Richards might be all right, the chief support. But Crocker Donovan's a proper fight. I'm looking forward to that more than any other fight this weekend. I would lean towards Lewis, but as it gets closer, look, I'll stick with Lewis.
Can't make his mind up, kidding. It's only Monday as well.
But that shows you that's how good a fight is. That's what I was trying to explain to people who were laughing at me over the weekend. I picked the first 3 fights wrong on Saturday night. I picked Buatsi points, Zhang stoppage, and I picked Madrimov points. And I said, that's a good thing. That's because they're real good fights and anyone can win them. You don't want to fight where you can write the winner down before you actually see it. You want fights where I can't even think about who's going to win because it's that good a fight. That's what we want to see as boxing fans, isn't it?
100%.
To be fair, I'd done the same as you, but I got 2 out of 3 wrong there. I done Kabayel to win, but the other 2 I done Madrimov and I done Buatsi. So I'm with you. But you're right in what you're saying there. You're struggling with Paddy Donovan and Crocker, and rightly so, and that's the fights you want. You don't want to have red corner, blue corner sort of situations here.
No.
But I'm with you. That's what makes it great, is that there is different opinions and then different views on as to how they can win it, and that's what makes it great. So yeah, I'm with you, and it is a tough one to call that Paddy Donovan. I'm leaning towards Paddy, but
look, it doesn't surprise me at all. Andy Lee against Billy again, same as Parker and Bakole. He was talking about going up against. He was salivating over it when we had him on a couple of weeks ago. Billy, little did he know he's going to have it the week before. Crocker Donovan as well. Yeah. He said he's beat. He's telling us he's got a win over Virgil Hunter. He's naming all the coaches he's got a win over. So he's like, I'm looking forward to adding Andy Lee to that list or something there. But obviously, Andy's got one over on him last week. So it's going to be a great fight. That it really is.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Anything to add before we sign off, Sam?
No, really enjoyed it, boys. Thanks for having me on again. Great podcast. Both really knowledgeable guys. Appreciate the support that you give ourselves over on our platform as well. So always good to sit in this seat rather than your seat for an hour and a half. So I've enjoyed it, boys. Thanks for having me on. Look forward to the next time. Yeah,
it's been a pleasure, mate. So we had Liam on last week, the boxing guru. We've got the boxing Bible on today, yourself, Sam, and we've got Jay on next week to go.
Jay on next week, is it?
We've got Jay on next week, yeah. So
I'll make sure I lock in for that one. He's good values, Jay.
No holds barred, mate. But again, thanks again, Sam. I love having you on, mate.
Pleasure, boys. Thank you. Look forward to next time already.
Definitely. Don't be a stranger. Come back on our show regularly. Love your take on it. And obviously, this is the end of episode 102, ladies and gentlemen. Usual T's and C's, I said at the bottom at the beginning. Like, share, and subscribe, whatever platform you're on. And we will be back on Wednesday to a preview of all the fights we just spoke about with Sam, Paddy Donovan, Tank Roach, all those kind of previews, along with our normal sections, the David McDonald's news, our weekly wager, and everything else that goes along with it. So until then, have a great week, stay safe, and enjoy the bloody boxing. Boys, peace out.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, Sam.